Okay, welcome back to my channel. I am here to review Seeking Sister Wife. This is season 3, episode 2, Irreconcilable Differences. This was a good episode. It kind of moved, well, it inched, I should say, the storylines along a little bit. But not too much really happened at the same time. So this should be a pretty quick review, and I'm just gonna jump right into it because I'm trying to really not make these very long until I can really get to editing. So we pick up where the episode left off with Dimitri and Ashley picking up Chrissy from the airport. Chrissy is visiting from South Africa. She's in LA to meet the Snowdens, and not too much happens in the airport scene. She meets them, they're excited, they're all hugging, she's kind of jumpy and she's smiling, and you know, that's pretty much what happens at the airport. So they are driving her home to their home in LA, and she's kind of taking it all in. LA, it's very different from South Africa, and she shares with us that she was nervous because you never know if chemistry translates from FaceTime to real time, but it seems to have done just that. She thinks Dimitri is fire, he's hot, she's highly attracted, so we're off to a good start. They get to their house, they're showing her around, they show her her bedroom, where Ashley tells us there will be no intercourse or intimacy taking place on this particular trip because she said Dimitri has learned from the mistakes of the past. I take that to mean maybe a reference to the previous season when they were courting Vanessa. I guess Vanessa and Dimitri smashed before the spiritual ceremony. Would it have made a difference if they had waited? Would Vanessa had stayed? I doubt it, but Ashley says that all that is allowed is oral to oral, mouth to mouth contact. Kissing, that's all that's allowed. Okay, so they let Chrissy kind of go to bed because she might be jet lagged. She wakes up the next morning, or what seems to be the next morning. I don't know, because Chrissy shares that she's not jet lagged anymore, like not at all. She's not affected, and I'm like, really? Because I remember when I took a trip to Asia, and when I came back, I slept for like 24 hours straight. I was probably tired from the trip too, but that's amazing that you don't have jet lag, but I digress. So Ashley's making everybody smoothies, and this is they're just kind of getting to know each other. And so Ashley asks Chrissy, like, so what do you like to cook? And what do you like to eat? And Chrissy tells her, like, oh, I don't cook. I don't like to cook. I try not to cook. And so you can tell they're kind of laying the foundation of like expectations, because Ashley asks Chrissy, like, okay, well, if I'm doing the cooking, what are you doing? And Chrissy tells her, like, well, I clean. I like to clean. I like to do laundry. And I like to do laundry too. Let me tell you, I can do a mean load of laundry. I can get my whites extra white, my sheets starched, and I love laundry. And this is music to Ashley's ears, because she tells, like, oh, say no more, like, you do laundry, I cook, it's all worked out and settled. So Chrissy also shares that she just kind of wants to hang out with the family and see what the dynamics are, because how the Snowdens treat their kids could be a reflection of how they might treat her children. She has 2 daughters, Kiana and Hayden, I believe their names are. She says that their fathers are not involved. She's a single mom. And yeah, she just kind of wants to see how everybody interacts with each other. And those 2 daughters actually are staying with her brother while she's visiting LA. So Dimitri asks Chrissy, what does your brother think of polygamy and all this? And she tells them he doesn't know. Like, none of her family knows. She's never been in a polygamous relationship before. And she hasn't told them yet because, she didn't know how this trip was going to go. She could have came to LA and it could have been a disaster, and why get everybody worked up? And especially considering that if this does go well, she might possibly be moving her and her daughters to another country. So it's kind of like, timing is everything. Like, let's take it one step at a time. And Ashley totally gets it. She sees that Chrissy is vetting them just as much as they're vetting her. And Dimitri's cool with it for now, but he, kind of confesses that it's okay for now, but it could present problems in the future if Chrissy doesn't like share sooner rather than later with her family that that this is what's going on. So that was pretty much them. That was pretty much it. So we're gonna move on to the next couple, Tasha and Sidian Jones. Sidian wasn't in this episode. It was really just Tasha. going to visit her mom. By the way, at the beginning of like her segment, she says that she is, you know, Sidian's wife of 4 years. And I swear in the last episode, she said that they weren't married. I could be wrong. Maybe, you know, I was hearing, but I wasn't listening. So I will stand corrected if I was wrong. Let me know in the comments. But because I made a big point of her just being the girlfriend. But I swear she said that they weren't married. And in this episode, she's like, I am the wife. It's been 4 years. We are married. Like, she's kind of like driving it home that, no, they're married. So maybe I'm wrong. I apologize. So she's driving to meet with her mom, who she lets us know that they're not very close. They kind of had a combative relationship growing up. But now she really wants to work on building a better relationship with her mom. Because, you know, if she has kids or a sister wife comes in with kids, she very much wants her mom to have like a grandmother role in their lives. And the mom reiterates that, yes, they have struggled with communication. And as Tasha's driving out there, she shares that she hasn't talked to her mom about her polygamous lifestyle. But she suspects that her mom may have an idea because Tasha has shared the news with her sister and her aunt. So she's not sure what her mom may or may not know. She shows up to her mom's house with a gift. It's all very pleasant at first, like, hi, sweetie, come on in. I brought you a gift. Oh, okay. So the mom asks, like, oh, what's the gift? And it turns out that Tasha brought her pictures of when she was younger. So the mom's kind of like flipping through them like, oh, I remember that t-shirt. That was your favorite. Oh, I remember that day. And oh, you were so cute. And who would know, you know, 20 years later, you'd be looking for another wife. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. And Tasha was even like, oh, like, this is not how I thought the mom was going to broach the subject. But she threw it out there. So Tasha was like, oh, okay, so you know. And the mom's like, yeah, I know all about it. So-and-so told me. So Tasha's like, okay, you know, and I give Tasha credit because she's calm and patient this whole time, because you can tell that the mom, she wants to rebuild a better relationship with her daughter. So she knows she has to be supportive and open-minded, you know, but at the same time, she cannot hide her disdain or disgust for polygamy. So she off the bat is just shooting off like, are you brainwashed? Are you in a cult? Is this religion? Are you being coerced? Like, and like I said, I give Tasha credit because she never lost her cool. She never got like exacerbated. Like, she was just very like, no, I'm not in a cult. No, I'm not brainwashed. No, I'm not being coerced. It's not like a religious thing. We consider ourselves modern polygamists, you know. And the mom's asking like, well, where do you meet these people? Like, you don't go online, do you? Like, there's crazy people online. And Tasha's like, no, we don't go online. And this is how Tasha is, just very even. Just like, no, we don't go online. Like, Sidian likes to approach people and meet them organically. And the mom's like, so are you like all in a relationship together? Like, you all like together? And Tasha's like, no, it's not. We don't all sleep together. It is very separate. And, oh, so, you know, the mom's like, so you don't have to like each other? Like, she doesn't have to like, you don't have to like her. And Tasha's like, no, like, we definitely need to like each other. I don't think living together would work. I mean, I really give Tasha all the credit in the world, because I would imagine it would be very hard to have to defend yourself to somebody you're not really close to, who hasn't maybe always been there for you, and they're kind of like attacking you almost. And I don't think the mom was intentionally trying to come off that way. She just, because she couldn't hide it. Like, she just wasn't, she's not for the shit at all. But, you know, in the end, she's never really, I don't think Tasha ever like qualms her mother's fears or placates her. The mom's kind of like, almost like throws her hands up like, oh, you know, well, it's not my gig, but if that's what you want to do, like, and it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, your daughter's grown, like, she's an adult. And I can understand a mom being concerned and worried, you know, that your daughter might be in a cult or brainwashed, because sometimes that's how these things go, not all the time. But I would say that I don't think Tasha's at all brainwashed or being forced or coerced. Like, I think she's very much into this lifestyle. And so you know, but see, if the mom knew her daughter better, if they were closer, she might know that, you know, this is who Tasha is. And, you know, so maybe I think the mom will come around. Maybe she just needs some time. But she did mention that she's only met Sidian twice, which, you know, for being married for 4 years, I think it's odd, even if you're not that close. Well, maybe, I don't know how close or unclose this mother-daughter relationship is, but after 4 years and only twice, I mean, I don't think it's just polygamy that has the mom concerned, but just like, who is this guy? Like, I don't really know him. So I think it's just going to take time for them to get to know each other, but that's them. We are going to move on to, I don't know who to decide, because a lot happened with the Clarks and the Merrifields, but let's go with the Clarks, which is Jared, Vanessa, and Kayla. So what we learn is that Kayla, okay, so they're still moving. They're still moving and unpacking. And Jared pulls Vanessa aside, like, hey, like, let me holler at you for a second. And we learn that Kayla isn't currently living with the family, even though she's kind of moving them in. She's not living with them. And Vanessa shares that about a month ago, an incident took place where Vanessa came home from work and she noticed that the microwave was dirty, it wasn't cleaned, it was a mess. And so she brought it up to Kayla, like, hey, can we clean this microwave better, or can we keep an eye on it? And that apparently rubbed Kayla the wrong way. She packed up her stuff and she left. Like, and they haven't talked about it since. Like, there hasn't been a conversation. I don't know if this show just, I don't know okay, so anyway. So Jared's like, well, how do you feel about her being here? How do you feel about her maybe moving back in? Because Jared says, like, she doesn't live with them, but they're not broken up. Like, they're all still together. Kayla's just staying with a friend for right now. So Vanessa's like, well, if we can talk about it and work it out, like, I want her to move back in. I'm fine with that. So that's kind of where they leave their conversation. Then a little later on, Jared's like, well, I'm going to go work out, and you guys finish, like I said, being extra. You guys finish, unpacking. You guys got it. Bye. Like, okay, whatever. So, and Vanessa's like, really? Like, you're really going to leave us? Okay, fine. So he leaves them alone, and Vanessa's like, can we talk? Kayla's like, yes. So Vanessa opens it up like, look, I came home that day, and she says, I started the argument. So this wasn't just a, hey, the microwave's dirty. She says, I started the argument about the microwave and maybe I shouldn't have. But what's sort of more of an issue here is that, you just left. And you didn't just leave like to take a walk, cool off, take a beat. Like, you packed your stuff and you left, like, without a discussion. And Kayla's like, yeah, oh, yeah, I did. And then Kayla shares with us, like, this is where I'm coming from. And then we kind of learn the dynamics of this relationship. Vanessa and Jared, the legal husband and wife, they work. Kayla does not. Her role is really to, I guess, stay in the house, be more the housewife, run it, cook, clean, is the impression I'm getting. Because Kayla says, it's not that I always feel like the maid, but kind of like I realize that's my role. Like, I don't contribute financially, and it makes me feel like my only worth, or the only thing I bring to the table in this relationship, is like my housekeeping skills. And so when you kind of question or point out things in the house that aren't, if they're not being kept up to par, then you're kind of criticizing me and kind of like my whole identity. Because Kayla says, like, she's at a point, or at least at that point when this argument happened, where she kind of has lost herself. Like, everything is about this family, this house, and nothing else. So when you're pointing something out, it's making her feel like, well, then, damn, I must not be doing a very good job for what I'm called to do. Maybe I don't bring anything to the table. Maybe you don't really need me. Maybe I'm not appreciated. Like, and what I'm really hearing is this is like there's, at least to Kayla, in her point of view, her experiences, there's a power struggle going on. And she feels like because she doesn't, and I've had friends in the past who are like housewives, they stay and raise the kids. It takes a little time to sort of like get those things worked out when you're used to always working and making your own money, to sort of having to rely on your husband. But it's not really relying, because it's like what's his is yours, what's yours is his. And you want to hope you're with a guy who's not going to throw that kind of stuff in your face because they can, like, well, I make the money, and then you feel like they have the control. I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. And I'm not trying to get off on a tangent or anything, but I'm really trying, this is really, I think, where Kayla's coming from. she feels like she's not as important. And she kind of says, like, I feel like maybe what you do, Vanessa, is more important. And Vanessa kind of gets defensive, like, well, don't you think I'm jealous that you get to be home all day? And the way she says it is kind of like, you make it sound she's like home all day eating bonbons and watching TV. Because she tells, like, we can switch. Like, you can go to work and I can stay home. And that's probably what Kayla wants to do. Like, she wants to feel valued. And when you're picking on the things that I do, it doesn't feel good. And, Vanessa asks, so like, do you want to be here? And Kayla says, yes, like, I love my family. I want to be a part of it, but kind of not if you're going to throw these things in my face and I'm going to be treated like the maid and what I do bring not be valued. But since she left, she shares with us that she got 2 jobs and now she feels kind of empowered by it, and it makes her feel confident. And like she says, like a woman, like, okay. I mean, I don't know that me working necessarily makes me feel like a woman, but just having your own definitely brings you confidence, and that's important. So Vanessa's like, well, how do we move forward? And Kayla says, like, I think we're moving in the right direction. It's just really on me to kind of come around more. And and Vanessa does share with her, like, I just want you to know that when you left, it was really hard on me. Like, your presence was missed. And I wonder if that's because that meant you had more to do. Remember in my review for the last episode, I had mentioned that I thought that maybe Vanessa was open to plural marriage because she could use some help around the house and a couple nights away from Jared. Like, is that what that means? I'm not sure. Because, I mean, when you're used to having somebody, I don't want to say like a maid, a cook, a housekeeper, and that's gone. And I'm not saying that's all Kayla was, but when you have that extra help, it does make a difference. So is it Kayla that you're missing specifically, or the help? I don't know yet. I'm not judging. It's just, there's a lot going on in this couple, this marriage of them. And so Vanessa shares, like, I want you to come back, but I also want you to realize, like, this wasn't just hard on me. It was hard on the kids, and it was hard on the king. I rolled my eyes, like, did we really have to call him the king? I know he's the king in his own house, but it sounded a little silly, but whatever. So Kayla's like, yeah, I know. So maybe some apologies can be made, and maybe we can get back on track. We'll see. That's them. Moving on to our last couple, the Merrifields, Garrick and Danielle. It opens with Danielle's parents coming to visit her at the house. I think they say they visit every single day. I'm like, really? Every single day? Like, I love my mother dearly, but every single day I visit? Anyway, they're checking in on her, though. They're kind of just like, how are you doing? How are things going? What's up with the divorce? What's up with the sister wife? And she's just like, oh, everything's good, everything's fine, everything's good, everything's fine. And the mom's kind of just like, well, it's not what this is, I think, the way Danielle's parents are, the way I think Tosh would like her mother to be. They don't get it. It's not, they didn't raise her to be a polygamist, but they're being as supportive as they can. They're just worried about their daughter and their grandsons. They want to make sure that they're taken care of even after this divorce goes through, whether, it's just kind of, in name, or it's legal, but it's just kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like a procedure. It's not like a real divorce, even though it is a real divorce. And she's like, she's fine. And they're just like, okay, if that's what you want, we're here to support you. So the divorce day comes. Garrick and Danielle drive to the courthouse to go before the judge, and the judge asks, like, is this, Danielle beyond repair? Yes. And Garrick, is this marriage beyond repair? Yes. And I'm just like, okay, well, they're lying, obviously. And I can't help but just be like, what about thou shalt not lie, Garrick? That's in the Bible too. And I'm only really giving him a hard time because there's just something about somebody who, like, has this sort of, like, they present themselves as this, like, pious, and I'm godlike and I follow the Bible, but I can lie to a judge, like. And this is also, like, kind of like scamming the system. Am I being too hard on him? I probably am, but it's just because, like, he's a Christian. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but he's like a bad representation of what, like, a Christian is. If somebody was like, point out a good one, he wouldn't even be on the list. Like, he's just like, you have to be careful, like, because you're doing this, like this, him taking on a sister wife. This is all like in the name of what God is calling him to do and what the Bible is instructing him to do. And I don't really, whatever. I'm trying not to judge. Okay. So the divorce is final. The judge is like, good luck to you both. Danielle's crying, and they get outside and they get to the car, and I'm expecting him to like hug her, comfort her, because you can tell she's upset, because they're legally divorced. Like her marriage certificate, she says, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like it's meaningless. And I'm waiting for him to like hug her, comfort her, tell her, I love you. This doesn't change anything. You're amazing. And he's just kind of like sitting there like, yeah, like that was weird. And then he tells the camera, like, I want Danielle to know that like her, like, she has my heart equally as much as Roberta does. Like equally? Like equally. I could take him saying, Roberta has a piece of my heart, but she has half of your heart equal to Danielle, like your wife of 13 years who has bore you 2 children. Like it would bug me if I was Danielle, like already. I don't know. It just seems soon to me, but whatever. So how do they celebrate this divorce? Well, they meet up with her family, her brother's wife, and her parents at a restaurant to celebrate her brother's birthday and the divorce. And can you believe, like, they're doing like a cheers to the brother's birthday and to Roberta. And I'm like, if I was the brother, I'd be like, no, this is my birthday. I don't even know Roberta. I've never even met Roberta, but like I said, this family is very supportive of her. So they kind of like, how did it go? And Danielle's like, yeah, I was emotional. I cried, but it happened real fast and it's done. And the sister-in-law brings up a really good point. She asks, like, what do you think it's going to be like, because you only went on vacation for 9 days to meet Roberta. And a vacation is very different from like real life every day. And I was like, thank you, sister-in-law. That is a point that I didn't even think of. It's a good point. And Danielle's like, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's going to be a little hard really getting to know Roberta and the language barrier. So like you admit, like you don't really know her and there's a language barrier. Fine. And so they're like, well, what are the next steps? And Garrick says, oh, well, we're going to go visit her in a couple weeks. And, I just know that these, Roberta and Danielle are just going to be like stuck together like glue, and I'm going to be left alone on the beach drinking Coronas. And I'm like, really? Like is that your way of trying to like deflect from the fact that we all know what you're really going there to do, and it's not to be sitting alone on a beach drinking a beer? Because it didn't work. Because all we can think about is you going there to hook up with Roberta again, but whatever. And then he says, in a perfect world, this will all get like done in 6 months. She'll be here, we'll be married. But, it usually takes a little longer than that, more likely a year. And I think the brother says, like, well, what happens, like, if it doesn't go through? Like, what happens if she doesn't get approved? And can you believe Garrick's like, well, we've thought about, possibly moving to her country. And the sister-in-law's like, what? Like, really? Like, well, and the sister-in-law gets a little teary, like, well, you guys know, I just want to let you know, like, I don't want to be selfish, but, I lost my parents and I don't have family, and you're my family, and that would really make me sad if you guys left. And Danielle kind of gets teary-eyed and is like, yeah, well, I mean, let's hope it doesn't come to that, yeah, because that would be sad. It's just like, and Danielle, I shouldn't be surprised that Danielle would be down to move to another country. She was down to get a divorce from her husband, all for Roberta, whose language you don't speak, who's a woman you barely even know. And that's what she said. Like, she barely knows her. But, okay. And you can tell, like, the brother and sister-in-law are kind of, like, interviewed to the side, and they're just kind of like, they want to be like, this is crazy and this is stupid. But she's got a very loving and supportive family behind her. And I'm happy for that because, anything can happen. Like the brother even brought up all the concerns I brought up last week. Like, what happens if Garrick dies? Like, does Roberta get the house and everything? Like, yeah, like, I mean, all the questions I have, I mean, I'm sure they've brought up to her, but you know, Danielle has an answer for everything. So that was that for that episode. Oh, you guys, I don't know if it's gonna get much better than that, but let me know what you think. Am I being too hard on Garrick? I'm really trying not to be judgmental of any of these couples, and I'm not. Like, I'm just, like I said, this is like cartoons. I'm just watching. It's just all for funsies. That's it. So let me know your thoughts. Do you guys watch this show? What do you think of it? What are your thoughts? Rate, comment, subscribe if you like. Like I said, I'm gonna spend this weekend trying to figure out how to edit, because I really want to edit, because these videos are way too long, and I'm sure I can cut things out, like these awkward pauses and these endings. I can wrap it up. So I will see you guys next time for episode 3.